No. Right, good evening everybody and welcome to our September Council meeting. We will smooth through the agenda and first of all note that we acknowledge that Mayor Freshney and, am I at the right place? And Councillor Baldock are not attending the meeting this evening as has been previously granted. And if anybody has declarations of pecuniary or conflicts of interest, I assume they've noted and advised Sarah in advance and will act accordingly through the meeting. So moving on to item number 3, which is confirmation of previous minutes. If everybody's had an opportunity, a mover for that.
So moved.
Thank you, Gary.
Yes.
And thank you, Councillor Fiddler. All those in favour?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you. I'm not getting lost through here. Moving on to item 7, which is response to questions raised at prior council meetings. The responses are there. And the recommendation is that the responses to the questions from Roxley Felmingham at the council meeting held on the 12th of August 2024 be received and noted. Do we have Councillor Fiddler, seconded Councillor Wicks? All those in favour? Against? Motion is carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 8, which is public participation, questions on notice from the public. And the recommendation there is that council, in relation to the questions on notice received by James Redgrave, endorse the responses proposed and authorise their release. Councillor Fiddler, seconded Councillor Wicks. All those in favour?
Aye.
Anyone against? That motion is carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 9, public participation, questions without notice from the public. Note that the process that we follow is on page 32 of the agenda, and ask if there's anybody in the room that would like to put questions this evening.
My name's Roger Fellingham. I live at 33 Gilbert Street, Latrobe. The question was for the Mayor. You might have to get on. Wouldn't it be a good idea to notify the Mayor of Kentish that Mr Monson is back on the payroll, because she doesn't seem to believe that he is. Apparently he's been on the payroll since the 29th of July. Question 2. Today I was ringing Victoria and South Australia to find out whether, with Mr Brown, what state are you a fellow member of the CPA? Because I haven't heard of you in Victoria or South Australia.
Thank you for those 2 questions. Do you want to take those on notice, or both of which?
Yep.
Thank you. We will take those questions on notice, Mr Felmingham.
And councillors, Mayor Mead. My first question is, the financial report of March quarter 2024 was received by Council on the 15th of April 2024 general meeting. Last year, Council voted to changing monthly reporting of its financial position to quarterly reporting. Since April, the audit panel has met twice and Council 6 times. Why has the audit panel and Council not picked up on that no quarterly financial reports from the end of March 24 have been received by Council to date? And what are the reasons for this? Second, the Australian Broadcasting Commission in May 2024 released a story on the Warrawee Suspension Bridge with the Mayor opening and explaining the process. There's a link to that ABC report. Did Mayor Freshney ride a bicycle across Warrawee Suspension Bridge on the day the ABC recorded the footage for the story and the official opening of the Warrawee Suspension Bridge on the 19th of May 2024?
Thank you. With regard to question 1, the purpose of the quarterly reporting is to monitor year-to-date performance against the annual budget and take corrective action if needed. It is the council's normal practice not to provide a financial report for June because the financial year has ended, and the priority is given to finalising annual financial statements for audit. Councillors and the audit panel is aware of this practice. And for number 2 is the Mayor is on leave of absence for this meeting. We've not been able to confer with him on the question. Thank you.
And I will get an answer for question 2.
I can't answer that because he's on leave.
Kush Allison, Port Surreal. The reason for tonight's 2 questions relates to an elector coming in to ask her questions and reasons for the rate increase at the property he resides. Please let me explain the reasons. As part of his discussions, he informed the council staff members and the councillor at the initial contact that he pays the rates as part of his rental agreement with the owner of the property, his mother. He also informed the staff members of his physical pain through disability and how it affects his mental capacity in staying calm when stress is created. He rated this to both staff members and apologised that it had given concern. This initial contact and a further phone call the next day from the councillor led him to believe he was being treated unfairly, if not discriminately. This led him to returning the day after to the council reception to fill out a complaint form, where he was informed by the staff member that complaint forms can only be downloaded and that the council doesn't hand them out. This led to further discussions, including more explanation on his mental and physical capabilities. One some staff member seemed intent on continually saying the questioner was being threatening. This led to 3 police officers arriving to remove the elector from the council building. The questioner asked, as leaving, if he could have a copy of the Latrobe Council's reception video of the visit into the public building and asked to ask questions on the relevant property's rate increase of 30%. He was then informed that the audio is not turned on. He was also informed in discussion that the council was a private business corporation and had the right to ask anyone to leave for any reason, as they only rent the building. The police officer backed this statement up, confirming it again outside. This has led to the following 2 questions. Now councillors are informed of these actions, does ye, the individual councillors, believe that calling the police on an elected questioner is good customer relations and policy when, after all, the question was only relevant to the current rate increase, which has concerned many ratepayers in the Latrobe community? And question 2, with the council officer and the police officers confirming that the council are a private company and the council only rent the building/offices and are not owned by the ratepayers. In the best interest of the community, can the Latrobe Council and ye individual councillors please provide the community with who owns this Latrobe Council administrative building that we are standing in for tonight's general meeting, along with the owners of the neighbouring Latrobe Memorial Hall where council AGMs are held, and if this owner is the body corporate, please provide whom owns this body and who are the directors and CEO of this body, including who authorised any sale of the buildings from ratepayers' ownership, the date of transfer and a copy of the bill of sale. Thank you.
I think that's out of the ordinary.
Sorry?
I think that's out of the ordinary to ask a question. Mr. Ellison, if you could provide the information that you've just read out to us now, please, and we'll give you a response to that. Take that on notice.
Put it on.
And do we have any other questions from the floor? No. All right. We will move on to item 11, the Development and Regulative Service Department. 11.1 is the planning principles for managed growth and development and the REM plan supply and demand study. Do we have a mover for that? Councillor Simms, and a seconder? Councillor Fiddler. Councillor Simms.
Troy, if you can see. Right there, please.
Thank you, Troy.
Councillors.
So I should note that, Troy, you are from our planning officer and have undertaken a lot of work in this process. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no worries. You didn't want to work there for a second. I won't try and skip over too much of what's already in the agenda report, but just to give you a brief summary. In 2023, Council engaged REM Plan to undertake a residential supply and demand study, and this was to inform our future strategic land use planning and to assist the development sector in their future rezoning. So over the course of the last 5 years, we're not the only municipality. The Tasmanian Planning Commission refused quite a few rezonings because there was insufficient data to demonstrate there was an appropriate demand for what was being proposed to be rezoned. And so collectively, Council, under the recommendation of our strategic planning team, made the decision to get a municipal-wide study, not only for us, but as I say, to inform and better assist the development sector on where future growth can and should be. The key findings of the report were that our population is anticipated to increase by 4,000 people by 2046. And given that the household size is so small now, as per the latest census data and historic census data, that results in approximately 2,000 dwellings. And obviously these are rounded to the nearest 1,000 figure, but not too far away. A couple of other key findings was that our ageing, we have an ageing population, which is pretty symbolic of the state, but more so in Latrobe. As you'll read in the REM Plan report, our key stakeholder engagement indicated, and you tend to agree, that this is because we have the coastal lifestyle in close proximity to Devonport, obviously in Port Surrell, coastal lifestyle, and the hospital in Latrobe. So you've got some key medical facilities and sound lifestyle while still being in reasonably close proximity to our key sub-regional activity centre, being Devonport. As you also note, there's a significant increase in lone person households anticipated. And again, this isn't only for our municipality, but also for the nation as a whole. The graph on the top right there demonstrates that we'll, if we weren't to act, we will basically run out of land, vacant land, within the next 10 years. That doesn't sound like a long time now, but in planning world, it's really not. Given that some of our subdivisions are more than 10 years old, their approvals. Our current plans are still in effect. However, we'll say the key ones, Latrobe and Port Surrell, excluding the Port Surrell update, are more than 15 years old. So our initial findings on what needs to be in future strategy, pending public consultation, obviously, is that the legacy components will basically rhyme with what's in the current plans. However, it does need some modernising with some more contemporary planning practices, we'll say, with a focus on that smaller household size and so forth. Councillors weren't comfortable to release the REM Plan report to our wider sector until Council's planners come up with a more contemporary set of planning principles that will inform and frame the conversation for our upcoming consultation with the development sector in our community. So this is the draft of the document. I won't go too much into it. We have workshopped it, obviously, but happy to take questions in the public realm later on. This is a reflected vision from our Latrobe Council strategic plan. However, I do note that these principles largely relate to where we live and the planning associated with that. It's not it's not a full analysis like what our larger strategic plan is. So there is less emphasis on economic development, noting that economic development has its own department within council. We would have all read that. So seven key categories, of which there's a number of principles underneath. So enhancing township livability. This is just planning practice 101 across every council. It's about building a better place to live, in essence. The movement network is obviously about noting that we are a car-dependent society statewide, but how can we incorporate other transport methods and have some better equality for localised transport. Safe community. How do we build those movement networks, allow for safe movement? Basically, I think it says somewhere there, be seen, see others and be seen. Again, looking at our changes to our age cohort and household size, housing may look a little different. Strategies will follow as to what we do in this space, noting that the state is also looking at a major change to the residential standards in our planning schemes as well. Key point there is promote the retirement living component. The aged care is a changing space as well, and it's about, as council, how do we facilitate that independent living, but within a controlled space and controlled and assisted space. Infrastructure is about what can we build, what's manageable, what's maintainable, but also what's sustainable. Our environment and landscape, again, this will incorporate key natural values, how we incorporate our infrastructure, so forth. And then obviously climate change, which is on everyone's radar. Very brief overview there for councillors, much more detailed in the agenda and within the documents themselves, but happy to take questions.
Thank you, Troy. Gary.
No, I've fully endorsed the recommendation along with those options for council to consider with A, B and C. Happy to do that.
Thank you. And Dave? Do we have any other discussion around the room? No? Certainly, we understand that there's a lot of people in community waiting for these documents to be released, and want to thank the team that have worked on the documents and getting the REM plan to where it is. There's some interesting data there that I'm sure we've all spent many hours pondering, particularly around the demographics, the amount of houses that we're going to need in our community up to 2040. 46, and the shortfall that we're currently identifying. But thank you for the work that you undertook with regard to the planning principles, because it is just an overriding vision as to how we like to articulate how we believe we can look at livability in our municipality into the future, and certainly ensuring that people have that choice of lifestyle, which includes talking about the hinterland as well, not just about the urban densification. So thank you very much for all the work that you've undertaken there. With that, all those in favour?
Aye.
Anybody against? That motion is carried. Thank you very much, Troy. So moving on to item 11.2, which is our Building Department report for August 2024. Can I have a move? Councillor Simms and a seconder. Councillor Wicks. Councillor Simms.
It's just disappointing that we're down figures of the last month. It's well below the line, but I'm sure it increases. People need accommodation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wicks.
No comments.
That I will put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Anybody against? That motion is carried. Thank you. So item 11.3, the Planning Development Application Status Report for August 2024. We have a mover for that. Councillor Fiedler and Councillor Metzger is the seconder. Councillor Fiedler.
No, nothing further. Chairman, the report there. Thank you.
I have a correction in the report. DA 55 for 24 Paradise Place, it states approved when it was actually refused by the team.
Aha. Okay, that's good to note that. So, yeah, if we just can make that change to that document, that would be good for the minutes. Thank you. Councillor Metzger. Nothing. All right, with that, we'll put the motion. All those in favour? Anybody against? That motion is carried. Thank you. All right, we're moving on to item 13, the Corporate and Business Services Department. Item 13.1 is the Latrobe Capital Works update. We have somebody move that motion, please.
I moved.
Thank you, Councillor Fiedler, seconded by Councillor Brown. Councillor Fiedler, did you want to have somebody talk to that, or
Please. So as we previously mentioned, this is to give councillors visibility of project across those key project milestones, scope in time. Is provided there. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions from the room? No? Thank you for the work that you've undertaken there. It's working towards a really clear report that we can see at a glance. So I think it's excellent change and look forward to seeing it develop over the coming 12 months. Thank you. So with that, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Anybody against? That motion is carried. Thank you. Item 13.2 is the 2024-2025 capital budget review. Can I have a mover for that motion, please? Councillor Martin, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Wicks. Councillor Martin.
Sims?
Pardon?
I did second,
You did. Sims?
Yep.
and you said Wicks.
Oh, sorry. Oh, my goodness. I was looking at Councillor Sims and said Councillor Wicks.
Well done.
Second mistake for the night. That's not too bad.
What mirror are you looking in?
Councillor Martin.
I can't have any further comment, however, if anyone wanted to speak to it, very welcome to.
All right, well, we'll put that to Cameron, our Manager of Corporate and Business Services, which I should have mentioned earlier, Cameron.
Just to clarify, the three different categories there being, we now have clarity on the carry forwards posted in the financial year. As we mentioned previously, we have provided budget with a net offset of disposal of assets. So this clarifies the gross amount of that replacement cost for capital equipment. And there are a number of items which we have further information for. So the report's broken down to those three categories. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Further questions from the room? No. We have workshopped this item as well, and yeah, it's interesting to see how we are going to treat the capital purchase, which is good. So thank you for that. With that, I will put the motion. All those in favour? Anybody against? That motion is carried. Thank you. With that, we are moving on to item 16, information, and 16.1 is council workshops. I have a mover for that motion, please.
So moved.
Councillor Sims, thank you.
Seconded.
Seconded, Councillor Fiedler. Do you want to talk to that, Councillor Sims?
Robust discussion about the items listed, so it was good.
Councillor Fiedler?
Nothing further.
Do we have any questions or comments from anybody in the room? All right, with that, we'll put that motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Anybody against? That motion is carried. Thank you. Item 16.2 is the delegates report. And we've got the recommendation there that the delegates report for Open Council be received for August 24. Have we got a mover for that? Councillor Martin, thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Wicks. Councillor Martin.
Further to add, I know that it's been very busy, I can say. Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you. And Councillor Wicks.
Yep, do agree with that.
Thank you. Anybody in the room? No, with that, I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Anybody against? That motion is carried. Thank you. Make sure I'm not losing track where I'm at. Council 16.3, Council Decision Status Report for August. I said that wrong earlier, didn't I? Have we got a mover for that? Thank you, Councillor Metzger. And a seconder? Councillor Fiedler. Councillor Metzger, do you have comments on the status report?
Seem to be picking things up pretty well. Things to come up next meeting, but it's not.
Thank you.
No, nothing further.
Anything further? Have we got any queries or questions around the room? All right, with that, we'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Anybody against? That motion is carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 17, which is committees of council. 17.1 is the Latrobe and Districts Youth Centre Management Committee meeting of August 8, 2024. Do we have a mover for that motion? Councillor Brown, and a seconder? Councillor Martin. Councillor Brown.
As the chairman of that committee, we only had 5 people at the meeting, but it went along all right. So minutes are there for somebody to read.
Thank you. Now, seconder was...
I thought it was probably one of the more constructive meetings we had with the less people in the room. We've got some pretty good outcomes, and reading on further where one community member had an issue and we were able to solve it with the community grant recommendations. So it looks like it's all progressed pretty well. Good
to hear that it's all going along very well. Has anybody else got any questions or comments? All right, with that, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Anybody against? That motion is carried. Thank you. Item 17.2 is the Latrobe Sport and Recreation Committee of the 14th of August 2014. We've got a couple of recommendations there. Item 1 is that the terms of reference be amended from as and when required to as and when required, but at least quarterly. And item 2 is the nomination of Mr. Greg Donald as community rep on the committee. So I'm going to have a mover for that motion.
So moved.
Councillor Fiedler. Councillor Wicks. Councillor Fiedler.
Not really. The minutes are there for everyone to have a look at. And I think we decided to go, well, the next meeting is in two months' time.
Right, thank you. Councillor Wicks.
Just to comments and to endorse Greg Donald. Greg's been on the committee in a different role, so it's good to have that continuity continue.
Thank you. Have we got any other discussion? Councillor Brown.
Our meetings are going to be here at the council chambers from now on because it's too bloody cold at the youth centre.
Thank you.
That's why I missed on the meeting.
Thank you. And for the Sport and Rec Committee? Same thing. Yep. Thank you. Any other discussion around the table? Thank you. Certainly, it's good to keep the meetings timely as well. Understand that some of our representatives from different clubs do struggle at times to get to those meetings, but it is really important that each club understands what's going on in the Sport and Rec vicinity. So it is a really good meeting, and note that there is the option to go to quarterly but no more than that. And certainly Mr. Greg Donald, as a representative with the Latrobe Football Club, was an excellent contributor. So it's a really good opportunity to have him part of the committee moving forward. So, yeah, that's really positive. Thank you. So with that, I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Anybody against? That motion is carried. Thank you. Item 17.3 is the Community Development and Grants Committee of their meeting on the 9th of September 2024, which is round 2. Can we have a mover for that, please?
I'll move it.
I just got away from Councillor Metzger. Do you want to second it?
I'll second it then.
And Councillor Sims to second. Councillor Metzger.
Yeah, unfortunately, I only have one applicant this round, which is a bit disappointing, but they were successfully getting some money for a frog box, which is not what you think it is when it comes to cricket. But yeah, allow people to, for the cricket club to live stream the games, so that people can watch from home, which great.
Very good. Thank you. Councillor Wicks.
No, lucky.
I've done Wicks again. Oh my God.
Should we go on the speak table?
Councillor Sims.
No, no.
Any other
That's it.
Doesn't take.
any other comments or questions around the room? No? With that, I put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Anybody against? That motion is carried. Thank you. And item 17.4 is the Latrobe Economic Development Committee minutes from the 9th of September 2024. Do we have a mover for that?
I can move that one.
Councillor Metzger. And a seconder? Councillor Martin. Just thinking Councillor Sims is too scared to speak.
Yeah.
Councillor Metzger.
Nothing much to report really on that meeting. We're in a bit of a holding pattern until we do a joint meeting with the Kentish committee to come up with sort of a strategic plan or an aligned strategic plan for the two committees.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Martin, do we have any other discussion around the room? No? With that, I will put the motion. All those in favour? Anybody against? That motion is carried. Thank you. And item 17.5 is the Port Sorell Advisory Committee from the minutes from the 5th of September 2024. Do we have a mover for that?
So moved.
Councillor Fiddler and a seconder. Councillor Brown. Councillor Fiddler.
The minutes are there for everyone to read. I will note that Ralph Brinkman is now the chairman of that committee moving forward.
Thank you. And Councillor Brown. Do we have any other discussion for that item? Councillor Martin, did you want to discuss that item?
Nothing at all, thank you.
No, and that's really good to see. Yes, Mr. Brinkman is going to chair that moving forward, so that's a great outcome. Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Anybody against? That motion is carried. We've got item 17.6, which is the Elderly Persons Unit Advisory Committee, the minutes from the meeting of the 11th of September 2024, and we've got a couple of recommendations there. Can I have a mover for that, please? Councillor Sims. And a seconder, Councillor Fiddler. Thank you. Councillor Sims.
Thanks, Chairman Mead. This is a long standing committee which has been first lot of units from 40 years ago, and I was fortunate enough to be able to do the plumbing on them down in Weld Street. But as the time's gone on, and as chair of that committee for 20 years, it's more or less become a maintenance meeting, and you know, that's all. So with the time and trying to get the tenants to that are willing to support it, it was time that we looked at winding it up, which they were quite happy with. They they all agreed that they were still able to come on to council, and if they had a problem, just go to dial up, and they'd be received in a well manner to have their problems fixed. And that's the reason why.
Thank you. And Councillor Fiddler, you were seconded.
I just wonder if Cameron would like to comment a little on that.
The minutes will speak to it, but we've made a particular effort to make sure that all of the actions on that committee are either closed out or reported elsewhere. And again, as Councillor Sims was discussing, making sure that those residents feel well supported by council in those properties.
Thank you. Do we have any other discussion in the room? No. It certainly is going to be quite a change, particularly for the residents moving forward. And it has been a committee that's worked very well for a long period of time, and a great initiative of council as well, to have the units. So if we note that the recommendations are, item number 1 is that council approves the winding up of the Elderly Persons Advisory Committee, acknowledging the successful completion of its objectives, and 2, a formal statement of appreciation be issued to all committee members, recognising their dedication, hard work and contribution to the committee's success. And Councillor Sims, have you been on that committee for a long period of time?
20 odd years.
There you go. Yes. So thank you very much for the work that you've undertaken, as well as the staff at council for all that they've worked so closely with the residents over that period. So with that, we'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Anybody against? That motion is carried. Thank you. Moving on to, do we do item 19? Urgent.
No.
Pardon? No. And item 20 is where we move into closed session. So can I have somebody move that, please? Councillor Wicks and seconded Councillor Fiddler. All those in favour?
Aye.
You. Motion is approved, and we'll now move into closed session. Oops, Janice. We've wound up very quickly this evening.